inviting up our first speaker of the day. We'll just keep things moving along if you want to start making your way up to the front, Ken. And we're proud to have Ken speaking here today. If you get to know Ken personally, he's just a great human being. Steve Jobs, when asked by Eben Pagan, one of my mentors, how did you become so amazingly successful? Steve Jobs thought about it for a minute. He said, well, first of all, not everything was successful. Second of all, I think you really have to care. And it sounds like a pretty hippie thing to say, someone that's been to Burning Man too many times maybe. But like, I see the values in Ken as being aligned with our family office club. And anytime I see someone who is aligned with our values, we try to go out of the way to help them out and to make sure they make more progress than average. And I see that in Ken, and we've gotten to know Ken pretty well over the last couple of years. He's been to many of our events. So let's welcome him up to the stage and learn about what were the secrets to him raising $4 billion over his career. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Am I on? All right, guys. So, gosh, with all the stuff he's written and all the stuff we've all learned together as part of this incredible community, I wanted to just drop back and say, what do I think are the key things that's allowed us to accomplish what we've done, not only raising $4 billion, but also having a $450 million revolving line of credit from investors? How do we do that? How long did it take? So I've just got a few key things that I think are different or unique, or it's been fed back to me from investors. So let's just jump into that. There's my contact information. So there's really two major things I want to cover that to me has differentiated ourselves, and it's mindsets, right? One is earning the opportunity. It's having yourself positioned and running your business in a way that your mindset is you always want to earn the opportunity, the respect, the credibility, the integrity, the recognition from everybody you do business with. So that's a mindset that comes first. And when you've earned that opportunity, then you have the right to always be the buyer. So both of those things fit together. I'm going to cover just a few points out of these. I put a number of them up there for you. One that we heard feedback continuously from our investors from is we have substantial systems, processes, and mechanisms that our amazing people or related businesses use in conjunction with us that allow us to produce reliability, predictability, and consistency in what we're doing. They see a lot of other people out there that have great ideas, perhaps a great opportunity, but they don't have the infrastructure in place to get that reliability, predictability, and consistency. So that's super important. Another one is in the first line, that word transparency. I've always got a practice that you're always going to know what I know. I don't have any hidden agendas. If you're a partner of mine through being an investor or any other relationship, you're going to know what's going on. That's how you build long-term, credible relationships, caring and respecting about other people. You also require the same thing from everybody you do business with. So there are no hidden agendas. There are no you against me. We're in this together. We're going to win together. That gets you to numerous long-term relationships, mindsets, doing credible things. Another one, point 5, I think it's point 5 in there, is do your homework. I'm an investor myself, looked at lots of opportunities. We do lots of investments. Again, we consistently hear back from the people that invest in us. We never see this level of homework done. Build it, they will come is a pretty silly mindset. Extensive market research, third-party analysis, absolute key to whatever you're thinking about doing. Financial analysis, operational analysis. We used to go into different lenders or investors with a 3 or 4 inch thick book of everything comprehensively put together, extremely well organized. They knew we knew what we were doing. They would never see that from any of our competition. Be the leader of your industry. Richard said that many times. Be number one. What was number one yesterday will not be number one tomorrow, so you're always striving to be better. And your team of people are always driven to excellence, so are you. So we won the National Housing Quality Award twice, America's Best Builder, Top Technology Company of the Year, 100 Best to Work For, Top CEO in the World for Developing People, all those kind of things. That credibility allows people to trust you, believe in you, and at the same time, you're very cautious about what you're doing. Rome wasn't built in a day. So you incrementally grow your business over time. Richard just showed you a chart of his organization through 17 years. You start somewhere and then progressively get better and better and larger and larger. We didn't raise $4 billion in one deal. We did that incrementally over time. So if you've done all your homework and you've earned the opportunity, then you have the right to be the buyer. Again, I didn't do this well in my early years because I was so excited when we got our first investors. But over time, what I realized is that these were going to be very long-term relationships. So with one particular investor, we've done over $1 billion worth of transactions. So you want to just work really hard at that, source that really well, be very intentional. Much like hiring employees or other people to work for you. You got to do your homework. You got to look at lots of people. You need to know what you're looking for. What's their DOS? We use the strategic coach. Richard Wilson often mentions Dan Sullivan. There's a tool called DOS, Dangers, Opportunities, and Strengths. In this transaction you're thinking about with this group of people, what are their dangers, opportunities, and strengths? Literally ask them that question. What are the dangers that you'd have if we did this together? What are the opportunities you see for yours? I always ask people, what are the two things that would keep you awake at night if we did this deal together? What would be that tense inside your mind, right? And what strengths do we bring to the equation from your side? So ask them, get them to know you. And then share your perspective in your relationship with them as well. Hedge risk for your investors. One thing that Richard Branson taught me years ago, he runs hundreds of businesses, and you ask him, how do you do that? And his comments are something along the lines of this: I simply do two things. I spend an enormous amount of time looking at my leadership and selecting the leadership for each opportunity and make sure the leadership's right. And then I hedge the downside risk. Things change in the world, not everything goes as planned. How did I hedge it? So at the end of the day, how are you hedging the situation for your investors? Are you being transparent about that? How do you have yours and their bases covered? Another thing with goes hedging the risk, one of the points on there says you always put yourself out in front of your investors. I've never to this day in over $4 billion of capital ever asked an investor to take risks that I'm not personally taking. Right? I always put myself on line in front of my investors. Now there's a lot of people in the investment world that are seeking money, that want to work with other people's money, don't have any of their own skin in the game. That has not been a strategy that we've used. I've always said, look, if you invest in me, you can count on me. I'm going to be in this to the very last day. Heaven forbid the world not working out the way we're all hoping it does. If it does fall apart, here's how we have it hedged. Here's kind of your worst case scenario, but I want you to let you know that I'm in this to the end and I'm going to make it work no matter what it takes. They've got to believe in you and you've got to put yourself on the line. That does not mean that you cross-collateralize every deal or cross-default every deal. One of my points to you this particular point cost me $171 million of cash. So do not cross-default all your investments or even cross-collateralize the majority of them. Your investors like to have that, of course. You've got to be the buyer strong enough to not do that. I cross-defaulted a few $100 million worth of stuff at one point, and of course, when the world started changing in 2008, it cost me $171 million of cash. So seek not to make that mistake. So 2 key points, 2 things take away. Position yourself to be the buyer, right? Earn that opportunity. It's not given to you. You can't demand it. Then be the buyer, and be the buyer by sourcing lots of candidates. So with that, I'll take some questions. Go ahead. Sure. In cross-collateralizing, what will happen is one of your investors will say, well, we'd be interested in investing in this situation, but in case things go wrong, we'd also like you to sign on the line to put all your other stuff at risk, or risk in this other deal that you're in, or risk in this asset that you own. So that's cross-collateralizing. Cross-defaulting is quite the opposite of that. Not the opposite, it goes in conjunction with that. And that's the situation where you've got things separated, right? You did not cross-collateralize them. But in the event something happens and you default in one situation, so one of your opportunities goes bad, that allows all of your investors or any of your other investors that are cross-defaulted to say, well, that went bad, so now our deal is bad. So that cross-defaulting, and candidly, I've coached a number of people in this situation that are investing in hundreds of millions of dollars of other stuff or have hundreds of millions of dollars of assets. And one of the things I suggest they always do is go to their counsel, their own counsel, and have them look at every legal document they have and see if anything is cross-collateralized and or cross-defaulted. And in most cases, what we find is in the fine print, things are cross-defaulted. So be aware of that particular situation. So the question is, how do you get investors to come alongside you when you're doing a disruption and you've invented a technology that nobody's aware of and doesn't yet exist and the investors don't really understand? I'm actually in that situation myself right now, right? And so it's through presentation, it's through communication, it's through explanation, it's through third-party references, it's third-party testimonials, other people that have looked at it and said, yeah, that'll work. I'm not trying to pitch, but we're in the middle of food as medicine, what I believe will be the single biggest industry in the world going forward, right? The integration of medicine and food coming together as one industry, single biggest transformation on the planet from a revenue standpoint. People are now trying to figure that out. We're the world's leader in that, right? How do you get them to believe in that? Something they don't know and understand. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of hand-holding. But it's also third-party expertise and presentation that they can rely on beyond you. We're using quite a bit of that right now in what we're doing. Thank you.
My name is Venkat Armile. I'm a multifamily syndicator. My question is regarding the scorecard evaluation for each investor. Could you elaborate on that one?
I'm sorry, I missed
the number 4, scorecard evaluation.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So let me get to that just a second. I attached this on. So we use, when we're evaluating and sourcing, we create a scorecard that says who are we looking for, right? What would be their characteristics? You can see down the 8 mindsets on the left side. We want to align with people that are going to be in a journey for the long haul with us. And then across the top is a scoring mechanism, of course 12 being the highest. What would be the typical characteristics? And we either send that to our investors and have them fill it out, or we do it through a series of interview questions about who they are, what are they thinking, are they the right fit for us, right? When you're the buyer, you're always looking for who would be the right fit with you. So that scorecard's just a tool we use. I would suggest it's just an intentional approach of understanding who are going to be your partners going forward. How do you know that they're aligned with you and will be successful with you? And I'm out of time, so thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. That was great. I took some notes there. Some of the most important, I think, from working in a lot of family offices is building related platforms and infrastructure, so it gives you that credibility and consistency that he was referring to. They build a multifaceted business platform, not just buy 10 auto part companies, but something that's more effective in the space. Having a 3-inch book when you go for due diligence to meet with someone shows you're really serious and you want to get this deal done. You've done your homework. You've not only looked at their financials, but you have very pinpointed questions and you're serious about not wasting their time. I think that's pretty critical. Not every deal will go well, so not cross-collateralizing. I mean, that's a $100 million lesson. Wouldn't it be great if you could just learn that, not even make a $1 million lesson before having to learn it yourself? And like Richard Branson said, protecting the downside is what Ken got from Richard. You know, Richard Branson has over 300 businesses, and many of them have failed. One of his, I think, was selling wedding dresses called Virgin Brides, and he said he couldn't find any customers, and it failed. The last thing is that Ken mentioned that you have to be number one in something for a very specific someone, and that's something we teach at all of our workshops and masterminds. We think it's absolutely critical. That's why we try to be the first to write a book on centimillionaires, or the only to write a book on how to start a family office. So I just wanted to highlight a few of those points.
Listen to this full panel. Join the Family Office Club by visiting familyoffices.com. We look forward to seeing you at our next live event.